My name is Lauren Wilson, and at 34 years old, I thought I had built a life to be proud of. My interior design business was thriving, and the lake house I purchased last year represented everything I had worked for. When I told my Aunt Vivian I could not wait for my brother Tyler's wedding tomorrow, the color drained from her face. Her lips parted, eyes wide, with something between shock and pity. The words that followed shattered my world into 1,000 pieces. "Lauren, honey," she whispered, "the wedding was last week. If you have ever experienced family betrayal, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe. I am about to share how I discovered my brother had deliberately excluded me from the most important day of his life. Growing up, Tyler was more than just my big brother. 3 years older, he was my protector, my confidant, and often my partner in crime. Our parents were good people, but career-focused. Dad ran his own accounting firm while Mom worked long hours as a hospital administrator. Their busy schedules meant Tyler and I relied heavily on each other. When I was 6 and fell off my bike scraping my knee raw against the sidewalk, it was 10-year-old Tyler who cleaned the wound, applied a bandage, and then carried me piggyback style all the way home. He never complained about having his little sister tagging along even when his friends came over. "That is just Lauren," he would say, with a casual shrug. "She is cool." Throughout elementary school, Tyler walked me to my classroom every morning before heading to his own. In middle school, when a group of girls made fun of my braces and frizzy hair, Tyler waited for me after school with my favorite ice cream. "They are just jealous because you are smarter than all of them combined," he told me, and somehow I believed him. The protective dynamic shifted slightly in high school. Tyler was smart but quiet, more interested in computers than sports. Some of the athletic boys took notice and started giving him a hard time. I remember finding him sitting alone in the hallway one day, his glasses broken beside him. Without hesitation, I marched up to the culprits in the cafeteria and loudly called them out. I might have been a sophomore to their senior status, but nobody messed with my brother. The bullying stopped after that. Our bond remained strong through college despite attending different schools. Tyler went to MIT for computer science, while I studied design at Rhode Island School of Design. We called each other at least twice a week, and during breaks we would meet halfway between our schools just to catch up in person. When I struggled with a particularly demanding professor, Tyler drove 3 hours just to bring me homemade cookies and a pep talk. When he stressed about finals, I created detailed study schedules and sent him care packages. Everything changed when Tyler met Vanessa. He was 25, 2 years out of college, and working for a promising tech startup. I was 22 and just beginning my career at a small design firm. Tyler called me sounding more animated than I had heard him in years. "I met someone, Lauren," he said. "She is incredible." I was thrilled for him. Tyler had dated before, but no one had ever made him sound so excited. When I finally met Vanessa at a family dinner 3 weeks later, I tried not to feel the slight chill in her demeanor. She was beautiful with perfect blonde hair and an impressive resume in marketing. She laughed at all the right moments and charmed our parents effortlessly. But when Tyler left to help Mom with dessert, her smile faded as she turned to me. "Tyler talks about you constantly," she said, her tone making it clear this was not a compliment. "It must be nice having a brother so devoted to you." I brushed it off as first meeting awkwardness and went out of my way to welcome her. I invited her to lunch, sent thoughtful birthday gifts, and always made sure to ask about her work and interests. But over time, a pattern emerged. Vanessa would forget to pass along messages when Tyler and I were trying to coordinate plans. Group texts about family gatherings would somehow never reach me. Tyler began canceling our traditional monthly sibling dinners with increasing frequency. "Vanessa had a rough day," he would explain. Or, "Something came up with Vanessa's family." I watched my once close brother transform into someone I barely recognized. Phone calls that used to last an hour dwindled to 5-minute conversations where he seemed distracted and eager to hang up. When I visited their apartment, Vanessa would make subtle comments about my clothes or career that felt like tiny paper cuts. Interior design must be so fun, she once said, emphasizing the word fun as if my career was a hobby. It is nice you found something that suits your personality. Meanwhile, my career was actually taking off. By the time I turned 30, I had founded my own design firm specializing in sustainable luxury spaces. My client list grew to include several celebrities and tech executives. I poured myself into work, filling the growing void left by my changing relationship with Tyler. When I found the lake house, it was actually Tyler who first sent me the listing. "This screams Lauren," his text read, a brief glimpse of the brother I knew. The property needed significant renovation, but I immediately saw its potential. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the pristine water. I spent every spare moment for 6 months transforming it into my dream home, a sanctuary away from the city. Tyler helped me move in one of the rare days he came without Vanessa. For a few hours, it felt like old times as we unpacked boxes and arranged furniture. He seemed impressed by the renovations and the way I had designed each space. "You always could see what things could become," he said, and I treasured the compliment. 3 months later, Tyler called to announce his engagement. Despite everything, I felt genuinely happy for him. I wanted my brother to have a wonderful life, even if Vanessa was not the person I would have chosen for him. "I am so excited for you, Ty," I said, using his childhood nickname. "You deserve all the happiness in the world." The engagement dinner was held at an expensive restaurant downtown. I arrived early, bringing a thoughtfully curated gift basket containing items that represented their relationship milestones. Tyler hugged me warmly, but Vanessa merely offered a tight smile when I congratulated her. Throughout dinner, I noticed how Vanessa positioned herself between Tyler and me. Whenever I tried to engage him in conversation, she would interrupt with an inside joke or by asking his opinion on wedding details they had apparently already discussed extensively. As everyone raised glasses for a toast, I caught Vanessa watching me with an expression I could not quite define. Something between triumph and wariness. When it was my turn to speak, I offered sincere wishes for their happiness. For just a moment, I saw a flicker of the old Tyler as he mouthed "thank you" across the table. That night, driving home alone, I tried to quell the uneasiness settling in my stomach. I told myself things would improve after they married, that Vanessa would feel more secure in her place in Tyler's life. I had no idea how wrong I was, or that in less than a year I would be utterly betrayed by the person I had once trusted most in the world. The next morning, still riding the wave of optimism from the engagement announcement, I called Tyler to offer my help with wedding planning. I had connections in the event industry through my design work, and thought I could assist with venues or decor. "That is really sweet of you," Tyler said, sounding genuinely appreciative. "Let me check with Vanessa and get back to you." He never did. When I followed up a week later, he seemed uncomfortable. "Vanessa already has her college roommate handling most of that stuff," he explained, "but I will let you know if anything comes up." I tried not to feel hurt when I heard through our cousin Sophia that Vanessa had accepted help from several other family members. Aunt Vivian was coordinating with the caterer. Mom was helping select floral arrangements. Even Tyler's college friend Jake was consulting on music options. 6 months before the wedding, I received a text from Tyler asking if we could meet for coffee. I arrived at the cafe feeling hopeful that he wanted to reconnect. "So, we have been finalizing the wedding party," he began awkwardly after we had settled with our drinks. And I prompted when he paused for too long. "Well, Vanessa has her 3 closest friends as bridesmaids, and I have my 3 groomsmen lined up." I waited, the implications slowly dawning on me. "I am not included," I stated, rather than asked. Tyler looked miserable. Vanessa wanted to keep the wedding party balanced, and she already had her heart set on her friends. "I really fought for you, Lauren, but—" His voice trailed off, and I knew he had not fought at all. "It is fine," I said, though it was anything but. "I understand." "You will still have an important role," he promised. "Maybe you could do a reading or something." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. This was the first clear sign that something was seriously wrong, but I still could not bring myself to confront the reality that my own brother was actively pushing me to the periphery of his life. 3 months before the wedding, formal invitations arrived in the mail. Mine was addressed to my old apartment despite having moved to my lake house over a year earlier and Tyler having helped me move. The invitation was forwarded by the new tenant arriving weeks later than everyone else's. When I called Tyler to RSVP, he seemed surprised. "I thought maybe you were upset about not being a bridesmaid," he said. "I had not heard from you." "I just got the invitation yesterday," I explained. "It was sent to my old address." "Oh, weird." Vanessa handled the addresses. "I will let her know." Another red flag appeared when Mom mentioned a save-the-date card I never received. Then Aunt Vivian referenced a wedding website with all the event details that no one had told me about. When I asked for the link, Tyler sent it with a casual, "Thought you already had this?" As the supposed wedding date approached, I found myself receiving conflicting information. Tyler had originally mentioned a June 15th ceremony, but then Dad referenced June 8th in a phone call. When I texted Tyler to clarify, he responded hours later, "Yes, June 15th. Dad must be confused." In the weeks leading up to the wedding, an unusual silence fell over my family. My calls to Mom went to voicemail. Dad's responses to texts were uncharacteristically brief. Even Aunt Vivian, who usually called me weekly, had been quiet. I attributed the strange behavior to wedding stress and focused instead on creating a special gift. I decided to design a custom photo album chronicling Tyler's life, including many pictures of our childhood together and significant moments we had shared. I spent weeks gathering photos, writing heartfelt captions, and designing each page to tell the story of my brother's journey to finding love. The week of what I believed was the wedding, I took time off work to finish the album. I stayed up late on Thursday night, June 14th, adding final touches to what I considered my most meaningful gift ever. The next morning, I called Aunt Vivian to confirm what time I should arrive at the venue. "I cannot wait for tomorrow," I told her excitedly. "The wedding is going to be beautiful." The silence that followed seemed to stretch for an eternity. Lauren, Aunt Vivian finally said, her voice strained. "The wedding was last week, on June 8th. "What are you talking about?" I laughed nervously. "The wedding is tomorrow, June 15th. "No, sweetheart," Aunt Vivian said gently. "The wedding was on the 8th, last Saturday." My mind raced. This had to be a mistake. Some kind of miscommunication or bizarre joke. "That is impossible," I insisted. "Tyler told me June 15th. I have the invitation right here." I fumbled through the papers on my desk, finding the elegant cream envelope. My hands trembled as I pulled out the invitation. June 8th stared back at me. How had I misread something so important? "I do not understand," I whispered. "We talked about this." He confirmed the date. "Oh," Lauren, Aunt Vivian sighed. "They changed the date months ago. There was an issue with the venue. Everyone got an email about it." My laptop was still open from working on the photo album. With mounting dread, I opened Facebook. There they were. Dozens of photos posted by family and friends. Tyler in a tuxedo. Vanessa in a flowing white gown. My parents beaming beside them. Aunt Vivian dancing with Uncle David. Cousins I had not seen in years, all gathered together, smiling. The room began to spin. I grabbed my phone and called my mother. "Mom," I said when she answered, my voice breaking. "Did Tyler get married last week?" A long pause. "Yes, honey. On the 8th. Wasn't it a beautiful ceremony?" "Why did no one tell me?" I demanded, tears now flowing freely. "Why was I not there?" "What do you mean? The date change was sent out months ago." Her voice held confusion, but something else too. Guilt. "I never got any notification about a date change," I said. "No one called me, texted me, nothing." "We assumed you knew, Lauren. Everyone knew. When you did not RSVP to the updated invitation." "What updated invitation?" I practically shouted. Another pause. "Maybe check your email spam folder." I hung up and frantically searched through my emails. Buried in my spam folder, dated just 2 weeks before the wedding, was a message from Tyler and Vanessa's wedding. Not from Tyler himself. Not from my parents. An automated email service with the subject line "Updated Wedding Information." I called Tyler next, but it went straight to voicemail. "Hey, this is Tyler. Vanessa and I are enjoying our honeymoon. Leave a message." Honeymoon. They were already on their honeymoon. I left a message, my voice breaking with each word. "Tyler, it is Lauren. I just found out you got married last week. I do not understand. Please call me back." I spent the next hour in a daze scrolling through more wedding photos online. There was Jake Tyler's best man giving a toast. There were our cousins from California who had flown in for the occasion. There was Dad's sister who lived in Australia, someone I only saw every few years. Everyone was there. Everyone except me. One particular photo stopped my scrolling. Vanessa, radiant in her wedding dress, surrounded by her bridesmaids. Not 3 as Tyler had told me, but 5. They had expanded the wedding party after all, just not to include me. In a trance, I walked to my dining table where the nearly completed wedding gift sat. Hours of work, years of memories arranged lovingly for a brother who had not even wanted me at his wedding. Beside it lay the new dress I had purchased, specially for the occasion, price tag still attached. My phone rang. It was my father. "Lauren, your mother just told me what happened," he began. "There must have been some miscommunication." "Miscommunication," I repeated hollowly. No one called to ask why I was not at the rehearsal dinner. No one texted the morning of the wedding wondering where I was. No one noticed I was missing from every single family photo. "We thought you were upset about something," Dad said weakly. "That you had decided not to come." Why would I miss my only brother's wedding? What possible reason would I have? I do not know. But Tyler said he tried to reach you multiple times. I ended the call and checked my call history. No missed calls from Tyler in the weeks leading up to June 8th. No text messages asking my whereabouts. Nothing. With shaking hands, I opened Instagram and found Vanessa's profile. 3 days ago, she had posted a wedding highlight reel with the caption, "The perfect intimate ceremony, with only those who truly matter present. Number, blessed number newlyweds. Only those who truly matter." The words hit me like a physical blow. In that moment alone, in my beautiful lake house, surrounded by the remains of a gift that would never be given, I finally accepted the truth. This was not a mistake, not a miscommunication, not an oversight. Lady, I had been deliberately excluded from my brother's wedding. The realization brought a pain so acute I could barely breathe. I sank to the floor, wedding photos still glowing on my laptop screen, and allowed myself to break completely. Years of small exclusions, forgotten messages, and growing distance had culminated in this ultimate rejection. My brother, the person who had once carried me home when I fell, had allowed me to be erased from the most important day of his life. As night fell, I remained curled on the floor, unable to move, unable to process the magnitude of the betrayal. My phone continued to ring with calls from family members suddenly concerned about my absence now that I knew the truth. I let each one go to voicemail. Their belated worry meant nothing. The custom album lay open on the table, a photo of Tyler and me as children smiling up at the ceiling. We were building a sand castle at the beach, our parents captured in the background watching proudly. The caption I had written read, "Building dreams together since 1989. The irony was almost too much to bear. I barely slept that night. By morning, anger had replaced the shock and heartbreak. I showered, dressed, and got in my car. The 3-hour drive to Tyler and Vanessa's apartment gave me plenty of time to rehearse what I would say, though the words kept dissolving into tears every few miles. I knew they would be home. Their honeymoon, according to Aunt Vivian, was a short 4-day trip to a nearby coastal town. They had returned yesterday. When I knocked on their door, it was Vanessa who answered. Her eyes widened with surprise, then narrowed with something that looked remarkably like annoyance. "Lauren," she said flatly, "we were not expecting you." Clearly, I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "You have not been expecting me for quite some time, it seems." Tyler appeared behind her, his expression shifting from confusion to guilt when he saw me. Lauren. Hey, come in. Their apartment was filled with unopened wedding gifts and thank you card supplies spread across the dining table. Evidence of the celebration I had missed. Why, I asked, simply standing in the middle of their living room. Why did you not want me at your wedding? Vanessa crossed her arms. We sent you the update about the date change. 2 weeks before the wedding through an impersonal email service after months of telling me a different date. I looked directly at Tyler. You never called to make sure I received it. You never checked why I did not respond. Tyler shifted uncomfortably. We were really busy with last-minute details. Too busy to make sure your only sister knew when your wedding was actually happening. My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. Too busy to wonder why I was not at the rehearsal dinner. Too busy to notice I was missing from your wedding day. Look, Vanessa interjected. The truth is, I have never felt comfortable around you, Lauren. You and Tyler have this intense sibling bond that always made me feel like an outsider. I blinked in disbelief. So your solution was to exclude me from your wedding? It is not like that, Tyler said quickly. It was not intentional. Things were chaotic with the date change and venue issues. Stop lying, I said quietly. Please at least respect me enough to be honest now. Something in my tone must have reached him because his shoulders slumped. Vanessa thought it would be easier this way, he admitted. She thought you might try to make the day about you somehow. Make it about me, I repeated incredulously. When have I ever done that? You have always been jealous of our relationship, Vanessa said coldly. Tyler was afraid to tell you, but I have seen how you try to monopolize his time, how you make little comments about our choices. I turned to Tyler, searching his face for any sign of the brother I knew. Is that what you think of me? He would not meet my eyes. Sometimes it feels like you do not want me to have a life separate from you. The accusation hit like a slap. I encouraged every relationship you ever had. I went out of my way to welcome Vanessa. I have supported every choice you have made. See, Vanessa gestured toward me. This emotional manipulation is exactly what I mean. This is not manipulation. This is hurt, I was shouting now, years of pent-up frustration boiling over. You deliberately excluded me from one of the most important days of our family's life. It was an intimate ceremony, Vanessa said defensively. Just close family and friends. I saw the photos. There were over 100 people there, including cousins we see once every 5 years, and Tyler's freshman year roommate. I turned back to Tyler. Grandma Patterson flew in from Florida. Uncle Jim came from Chicago. Everyone was there except me. The doorbell rang, interrupting our confrontation. Tyler looked almost relieved as he went to answer it. My parents stood in the doorway, expressions grim. We thought we might find you here, Mom said, looking between Tyler and me. We were worried when you did not answer our calls. Worried, I laughed bitterly. That is new. You were not worried when I was missing from every wedding photo. Lauren Dad began in his placating tone. I think you are overreacting. It was an unfortunate miscommunication, but making a scene will not change what happened. Overreacting, I repeated, my voice breaking. My entire family celebrated without me. You all smiled for photos, ate cake, and danced. And not once did anyone say, Wait, where is Lauren? We thought you chose not to come, Mom insisted. Tyler told us he had notified you about the date change. I pulled out my phone and showed them my call history, my text messages, my email inbox. Show me where. Show me one direct communication about the date change. No one spoke. The silence was damning. I found out yesterday that my brother got married last week. Do you have any idea how that feels? Tyler finally looked genuinely remorseful. Lauren, I am sorry. I should have made sure you knew. But you did not want to make sure, I said quietly. That is the truth, is not it? Some part of you was relieved I would not be there. Before he could answer, Vanessa cut in. You always make everything so dramatic. This is exactly why we kept things simple. Simple. I looked around at my family, these people I had trusted completely. There was nothing simple about this. You orchestrated my exclusion and then pretended it was an accident. As if to confirm my words, my phone buzzed with a text message. It was from my cousin, Sophia. Just heard what happened. Vanessa told me weeks ago they sent your invitation late on purpose because she thought you would try to take over the wedding planning. I thought you knew and decided not to come. I am so sorry, Lauren. I held up my phone so they could all see the message. Still want to claim this was just poor communication. The color drained from Tyler's face. My parents looked stunned. I need time away from all of you, I said, gathering what dignity I had left. I trusted you my entire life, Tyler. I would have done anything for you, and you could not even make sure I was at your wedding. As I walked toward the door, Mom reached for my arm. Lauren, please. Let us fix this. I gently removed her hand. Some things cannot be fixed with an apology and a family dinner. This is one of them. The last thing I saw as I closed their apartment door was Tyler's face, a mixture of shame and relief that told me everything I needed to know about where I stood in his life now. The lake house had never felt so empty. For 2 weeks, I retreated from the world, taking time off work and forwarding my calls. The only people I allowed in were my 2 closest friends, Emma and Jasmine, who arrived bearing comfort food and righteous indignation on my behalf. I cannot believe they did this to you, Emma. Fumed, arranging Thai takeout containers on my coffee table. Your own brother. Jasmine, always the more practical one, helped me sort through the emotions. What you are feeling is grief, she explained. You are mourning the relationship you thought you had. They were right. The pain came in waves like the stages of grief. First, the shock and denial, believing there must be some explanation. Then, the anger that consumed me during the confrontation. Now, a hollow sadness had settled in my chest, a mourning for the brother I had lost long before the wedding. With my friend's encouragement, I began journaling the experience, documenting not just the wedding exclusion, but the pattern that had led to it. Looking back through photos and text messages from the past 5 years, I saw what I had been too loyal to acknowledge: my systematic removal from Tyler's life. There was the family Thanksgiving where Vanessa had accidentally told me dinner was at 7 when it was actually at 5. The birthday party for my father, where my invitation was lost in the mail until the last minute. The countless group gatherings I discovered only through social media posts afterward. We figured you were busy with work, was the common excuse. But now I recognized it for what it was, a deliberate campaign to edge me out. At Emma's insistence, I scheduled an appointment with Dr. Harris, a therapist I had seen briefly after a difficult breakup years earlier. What you are describing is a common dynamic in families when a new partner feels threatened by close sibling bonds, Dr. Harris explained during our session. Rather than working to find their place, they try to eliminate what they perceive as competition. But why would Tyler allow it? I asked the question that had haunted me for weeks. Sometimes people choose the path of least resistance. Standing up to a spouse is harder than slowly distancing from a sibling who will likely forgive them anyway. I always have forgiven him, I admitted. Every missed call, every canceled plan. And that pattern taught him there were no consequences for his behavior, Dr. Harris pointed out. The question now is, what boundaries do you need to set, going forward? That question stayed with me as I slowly emerged from my isolation. I returned to work, finding solace in creativity and client problems that had clear solutions, unlike the messy reality of my family situation. As days passed, I began to recognize another painful truth: part of Vanessa's resentment might have stemmed from jealousy over my success. While Tyler earned a good living, my business had flourished beyond everyone's expectations. The lake house, my dream home that I had purchased and renovated myself, stood as a symbol of that success. I remembered Vanessa's tight smile when I offered to help find wedding vendors through my industry connections. Her dismissive comments about my cute little business when I signed a contract with a celebrity client. The way she subtly undermined my accomplishments at family gatherings. Confronting these realizations was painful but necessary. The sister who had stood up to bullies for her brother had failed to recognize when she became the target of a different kind of bullying. 3 weeks after discovering the truth about the wedding, I received a text from Aunt Vivian asking if she could visit. Unlike my parents, who had called daily with increasingly frustrated messages about moving on and forgiving and forgetting, Aunt Vivian had given me space. When she arrived, she brought no platitudes, no pressure to reconcile. Instead, she listened as I poured out the full story, including all the patterns I had identified. I watched it happening, she admitted, her eyes sad. I should have said something sooner. Why did not you? I asked, without accusation. Family dynamics are complicated. I told myself it was not my place. She reached for my hand. But when I saw your face that day, when you realized you had missed the wedding, I knew I had failed you by staying silent. Her honesty was refreshing after weeks of excuses and deflection from my parents. What do I do now? I asked her. I cannot pretend this did not happen. No, she agreed. And you should not. Some actions require consequences even within families, especially within families. Tyler was my best friend for 25 years. I said, tears threatening again. How do I just let that go? You do not have to let it go. But you can put it in a different place in your heart. Make space for the pain, without letting it consume you. As Aunt Vivian left, she hugged me tightly. Your grandfather used to say that family is not just who shares your blood, but who shares your heart. Remember that, Lauren. That night, sitting on my deck overlooking the lake, I felt something shift inside me. The acute pain began to transform into a quiet resolve. I could not change what had happened, but I could decide how it would shape me going forward. I would not allow this betrayal to make me bitter or closed off, but I would also not pretend it had not fundamentally altered my relationship with my brother and parents. For the first time in weeks, I slept peacefully without dreaming of wedding photos or childhood memories of a brother who no longer existed. Almost exactly 1 month after the wedding, my phone lit up with Tyler's name. I hesitated before answering, my heart racing, despite my resolve to remain calm. Hello, I said, keeping my tone neutral. Lauren. Hey, Tyler sounded cheerful, as if nothing had happened between us. How have you been? The casual greeting after weeks of minimal contact caught me off guard. I have been better, I replied honestly. What do you need, Tyler? Need cannot, I just called to check in on my sister. His forced laugh did nothing to mask the insincerity. You have not checked in properly in years, and we have not spoken since I left your apartment 3 weeks ago. So again, what do you need? A brief pause. Well, actually, Vanessa and I were talking, and we had this great idea. We never got to have a proper post-wedding celebration with the extended family since we had to rush off on our honeymoon. We were thinking of hosting something the weekend after next. I waited, already sensing where this was heading. Your lake house would be perfect, he continued enthusiastically. All that outdoor space, the gorgeous views. Everyone always talks about how amazing it is. You want to use my lake house for your wedding celebration, I clarified, making sure I understood correctly. Yes, it would be so perfect. Vanessa is thinking about 40 people, mostly family and close friends. She already has ideas for decorations and food. 40 people, I repeated. Well, maybe 50. The list keeps growing, he laughed. Vanessa has been planning this for weeks. She is so excited. The audacity was breathtaking. Not only were they asking to use my home after excluding me from their wedding, but they had been planning this for weeks without bothering to ask me until now. When exactly were you planning to tell me about this? I asked. I am telling you now, Tyler said, sounding confused by my tone. So, is that okay? Vanessa wants to start sending out invitations tomorrow? You have already told people it will be at my house, have not you? A telling pause. Well, we mentioned it might be. Everyone is really looking forward to seeing your place. I took a deep breath. No. No, what? No, you cannot use my lake house for your post-wedding celebration. The silence that followed spoke volumes. It had genuinely never occurred to him that I might refuse. Lauren, come on, he finally said, his voice taking on the cajoling tone he had used since childhood when he wanted something. Do not be like that. This is a chance for you to be part of the celebration. The celebration of a wedding I was deliberately excluded from. We have been through this, he sighed. There was a miscommunication about the date. There was no miscommunication, Tyler. There was a deliberate decision to keep me away, followed by a series of lies to cover it up. That is not fair. Neither was what you did, I replied calmly. And now you want to use my home that I worked for and renovated myself to host a party celebrating an event I was not allowed to attend. It is just a house, Lauren. Why are you being so difficult? His dismissal of my home, the physical embodiment of my hard work and success, solidified my resolve. The answer is no. I will not host your celebration. Fine, he snapped. We will find somewhere else. But Mom and Dad are going to be really disappointed. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with an incoming call from my mother less than 5 minutes after I ended the conversation with Tyler. Lauren, your brother just called, she began without preamble. I cannot believe you are refusing to help with their celebration. Hello to you too, Mom. This pettiness needs to stop. Yes, there was an unfortunate situation with the wedding, but continuing to punish everyone is not going to fix anything. I am not punishing anyone, I said evenly. I am setting a boundary. My home is not available for this event. But it would mean so much to your brother and Vanessa. Did my attendance at their wedding mean much to them, I countered? Because they certainly did not seem concerned about that. Dad called next, then Aunt Vivian, who, to my surprise, supported my decision completely. They have a lot of nerve, she said. Stand your ground, Lauren. Over the next 2 days, I received calls or texts from various family members, each taking sides in what had somehow become a family crisis. Some, like my cousins Sophia and Michael, understood my position completely. Others, particularly those closest to my parents, pressured me to be the bigger person and let bygones be bygones. By the 3rd day, Tyler called again, his tone considerably less friendly. This is ridiculous, he said immediately. Everyone is upset because you are being stubborn. I am not being stubborn. I am making a choice about my own property based on how I have been treated. We were going to include you in everything. The way you included me in your wedding, I asked pointedly. That was different. Yes, it was. That was about your day, your choice. This is about my home, my choice. Remember when we were kids, he said, his voice softening. And we promised to always be there for each other. What happened to that, Lauren? The manipulation was so transparent it almost made me laugh. She grew up and realized that promises only matter when both people honor them. After Tyler's attempt failed, my parents arrived unannounced at my door, a last-ditch effort to change my mind. We raised you better than this, Mom said, her disappointment evident. Family comes first. I invited them in but remained firm. Yes, family should come first. That is why it hurt so much when my entire family celebrated without me and then pretended it was my fault for not being there. We have apologized for that, Dad said impatiently. What more do you want? I want acknowledgement that it was not a mistake or miscommunication. I want honesty instead of excuses. And most of all, I want respect for my decision now. This is about the lake house, is not it? Mom asked suddenly. You are proud of it, and you want everyone to know you did this all on your own. This is not about pride, I said, keeping my voice steady. This is about consequences. Actions have them. Tyler and Vanessa chose to exclude me from their wedding. My choice is not to host their celebration. So that is it, you are just going to pull away from the family. Dad looked genuinely concerned for the first time. I am not pulling away. I am establishing boundaries. There is a difference. They left without resolution, my mother in tears, my father in stony silence. But as painful as the conversation had been, I felt stronger for having stood my ground. The old Lauren would have given in, would have opened her home and pretended everything was fine for the sake of family harmony. But that Lauren had disappeared the moment Aunt Vivian told her she had missed her brother's wedding. In her place stood someone who understood that love without respect was not really love at all. The next day, I sent a group email to my entire family. It was not an accusation or a defense, but a clear statement of my position. I value each of you and the role you play in my life, I wrote. But I have learned that healthy relationships require honesty, respect, and accountability. My decision about the lake house stands. I am open to rebuilding relationships on these new terms, but I will no longer accept being an afterthought in my own family. I deserve better than that, and deep down I believe you all know that. I hit send and turned off my phone, giving everyone space to process my words without immediate reactions. It was the first step in what I knew would be a long journey toward healing not just my relationship with my family, but my relationship with myself. The aftermath of my stand about the lake house created a clear dividing line in my family. Some members, like Aunt Vivian and my cousins Sophia and Michael, reached out with messages of support and understanding. Others maintained a chilly distance, likely influenced by my parents' version of events. Tyler and Vanessa held their post-wedding celebration at a restaurant downtown. I know this only because Sophia called to check on me that day, knowing it might be difficult. "You are not missing much," she assured me. "The food is mediocre, and Vanessa keeps talking about how this was their backup plan." I surprised myself by feeling nothing but a slight melancholy. The acute pain had subsided, replaced by a quiet acceptance of the new reality. In the months that followed, I focused on building what Dr. Harris called my chosen family, the friends and extended relatives who showed up consistently with love and respect. Emma and Jasmine became even more integral to my life, joining me for weekly dinners and weekend outings. My business partner Zoe, who had been supportive throughout the ordeal, introduced me to her circle of friends, expanding my social network beyond family connections. With Aunt Vivian's encouragement, I began hosting small gatherings at the lake house. Sunday brunches on the deck. Movie nights by the fireplace. Quiet evenings of conversation under the stars. My home, once a symbol of achievement, transformed into a haven of genuine connection. 3 months after the wedding debacle, my mother called with an olive branch of sorts. "Your father and I have been talking," she began cautiously. "We may have been too quick to dismiss how you felt about the wedding situation. It was not quite an apology, but it was a start. We agreed to meet for lunch the following week. A neutral setting where we could begin the slow process of rebuilding trust." Over salads at a cafe midway between our homes, Mom admitted something surprising. "I knew something was wrong with the way Tyler and Vanessa handled the wedding invitations," she confessed. "But I convinced myself it was not my place to interfere." Why, I asked, genuinely curious rather than accusatory. She considered the question carefully. "I think I was afraid of losing Tyler. Vanessa has such influence over him, and she can be difficult when challenged. So you sacrificed your relationship with me instead." Mom looked stricken. "I never thought of it that way. I thought you would forgive us like you always have." "I am working on forgiveness," I told her honestly. "But forgiveness does not mean forgetting or pretending nothing happened. It means processing the hurt and moving forward with new understanding." She nodded slowly. "Your father is having a harder time with this. He does not do well with conflict." "I know. But avoiding conflict does not resolve anything. It just allows problems to fester." We parted with a tentative hug and plans to include Dad in our next meeting. It was progress, however small. Tyler took longer to reach out. When he finally did 5 months after the wedding, his text was brief. "Can we talk?" We met at a coffee shop, both of us visibly nervous. The brother sitting across from me looked different somehow. Less confident, more subdued. "Vanessa and I have been seeing a marriage counselor," he began, surprising me immediately. "Things have been challenging." I listened as he explained how the wedding drama had created unexpected tension in their new marriage. How Vanessa's controlling tendencies, once directed primarily at his relationships with others, had turned toward him as well. "The counselor helped me see patterns I had been blind to," he said, stirring his coffee absently. including how I allowed you to be treated. And I prompted when he fell silent. And I am sorry, Lauren. Truly sorry. What we did was wrong. And your reaction was completely justified. He looked up, meeting my eyes fully for the first time. I miss my sister. The simple declaration brought unexpected tears to my eyes. I miss my brother too, the one who used to have my back no matter what. I want to be that person again, he said quietly. If you will let me try. It will take time, I warned him. Trust once broken is not easily repaired. I know, but I would like to start. Our reconciliation began with small steps. Occasional texts. Brief phone calls. A shared lunch here and there. I maintained firm boundaries, making it clear that Vanessa would need to demonstrate real change before I would consider spending time with both of them together. By the 1-year anniversary of the wedding, enough healing had occurred that I felt ready to host a small family dinner at the lake house. Not the grand celebration Tyler and Vanessa had once envisioned, but a quiet gathering of those family members who had done the work of rebuilding relationships. The evening was not without awkward moments. Vanessa, who had eventually offered her own stiff apology, clearly felt uncomfortable in my space. My father still sometimes lapsed into his let us all just get along platitudes when conversation touched on sensitive topics. But there was also laughter, genuine warmth, and the beginning of new traditions. As we sat on the deck after dinner watching the sunset reflect on the lake, my young cousin Ellie, just 17, asked me a question that caught me off guard. How did you do it? She asked. Stand up to everyone when they were pressuring you to give in? I considered her question, carefully aware that everyone was listening. I realized that respecting myself was as important as being respected by others. Sometimes that means making difficult choices and accepting that not everyone will understand them. She nodded thoughtfully. My friends always want me to go along with whatever they decide, even when it makes me uncomfortable. I am afraid of losing them if I say no. The people who truly value you will respect your boundaries, I told her. Anyone who does not may not be someone you want in your life anyway. Later, Ellie hugged me goodbye with special fierceness. Thank you, she whispered. I needed to hear that. That night, after everyone had left, I sat alone on the deck with a glass of wine, reflecting on the journey of the past year. The pain had not disappeared completely. It probably never would. But it had transformed into something else: wisdom, strength, and a deeper understanding of what family truly meant. Family was not just shared DNA or childhood memories. It was not obligation or appearance or tradition for tradition's sake. True family was mutual respect, honesty, and the courage to both set and honor boundaries. It was showing up for each other not just in celebration but in conflict. It was doing the hard work of repair when damage had been done. Looking out at the moonlight dancing across the water, I felt gratitude wash over me. Gratitude for the painful lesson that had forced me to grow. Gratitude for those who had stood by me when I needed them most. Gratitude even for the difficult journey that had led me to a stronger, more authentic sense of self. Have you ever had to set a difficult boundary with someone you love? How did it change your relationship? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. Sometimes, the hardest decisions lead to the most important growth. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear it. Remember, you deserve to be valued and respected in every relationship in your life. Thank you for listening, and I wish you the courage to honor your own worth even when it is not easy.